We open on a sequence of teens bar mitzvah, revealing on the programs that his real name is William Kaplan. It's beautiful to watch his parents and community celebrate him and clear that he grew up surrounded by a lot of love. One of the people at his bar mitzvah is Lilia in a fortune-telling tent. Lilia tells William a long journey lies ahead of him, one of great transformation. Except she then reveals that his lifeline is broken in two as the lights flicker. He's understandably nervous, though Lilia tries to reassure him this could mean many things. He's becoming a man, after all. She also mentions the Tower reversed card, and when he's confused, she says she thinks she just remembered something. In a lovely moment, reminiscent of Agatha telling Teen she doesn't have to know his name to know who he is, Lilia tells him she doesn't need to be a psychic to know he's a good egg and tells him to enjoy the now. That's all that's guaranteed. When he leaves, Lilia draws a sigil on a block of wood, puts it in his coat pocket, and promptly forgets she's done it. William's dad tells everyone something's happening with the anomaly in Westview, and the guests head home in a panic. On the way back to the house, William finds the sigil before looking out the window and seeing the red light of the hex. His mother, who's driving, gets distracted by it and crashes the car into a tree. His parents immediately call the police, with one of them being Alice, but William is bleeding out in the back seat, badly injured. William dies, but he then wakes up again, calling for Tommy. Billy Maximoff's soul is now in William Kaplan's body. Billy is extremely confused in the hospital, especially when he catches a glimpse of himself in the reflective window. He doesn't recognize his parents, and he immediately gets upset when he hears them having a small disagreement, begging them not to fight. The doctors have said that his amnesia will wear off, and he's cleared to be discharged soon. He's even more confused when he arrives at his unfamiliar home, and his dog begins barking, not recognizing him. His parents grow increasingly anxious that he doesn't understand what's going on, and things get more complicated when Billy realizes he can read their thoughts. All the voices loud and distracting. After this revelation and a small freakout, he tries to act normal and heads to his room to look around the space, then practices saying that he's William Kaplan in the mirror. 3 years later, we see Billy and his boyfriend, Eddie, in the car. Eddie inquires about the block he always carries around, and Billy tells him it's a sigil, which is like a puzzle he hasn't solved. Billy hears Eddie debating in his head whether to tell him he loves him, which makes Billy panic. He pulls away from the kiss and admits to what happened on the day of that car crash, divulging that he's not really William Kaplan and that he still doesn't remember anything about what happened before the wreck. He then tells Eddie he loves him, and Eddie kisses him. He thinks he's crazy, but not because of what he said. Eddie does want to know, though, if he's not William Kaplan, then who is he? Billy shows Eddie the evidence he's pieced together, complete with newspaper reports about the hex. Eddie thinks that the anomaly turned out to be an Avengers training exercise gone wrong, but Billy tells him he's too trusting. Billy and Eddie watch a quick Jennifer Kale video before looking at footage of the anomaly online. Billy sees runes in the footage, which has given him a theory that it was witchcraft. Though most Westview citizens refuse to talk about it, he did connect with a guy on Reddit who agreed to meet up with him in a parking garage. In the parking garage, the two see a man in a trench coat lurking in the shadows. He turns out to be Ralph Boner, whose real name is Randall. Randall is paranoid because who wouldn't be? He remembers everything about what Wanda Maximoff did, what it felt like. It was like watching your life on TV in your head, he says, but you couldn't turn it off. Billy asks him if he has any special powers from this, and he acts like Billy is nuts. Billy hears him pleading not to ask about Agatha in his head, which, of course, makes Billy ask. Randall agrees to tell him everything if they either give him cash or promise to attend his one-man show. I respect the hustle. Randall says everything was worse for him than for other Westview citizens, as Agatha treated him like his puppet when she was making him play husband. Plus, she stole his house, completely ruining the market value, and still has his entire Blu-ray collection. She made him be a terrible influence on Wanda's kids and even poisoned a dog. Randall doesn't know what happened to the kids, they just disappeared. But he thinks they probably got sucked up in the red bubble, like everything else Wanda created. Randall's still scarred and refuses to face Agatha again. Word on the street is that she still lives there, but Randall warns Billy not to go. He does not know the kind of crazy that lady eats for breakfast. Billy does not heed the advice, immediately going home and listening to Lorna's version of the ballad as he makes notes about what Randall told him before searching Agatha Harkness, Ancient Witch on Google and finding a photograph of her, as well as information about her past on Brujopedia, including the fact she's the only survivor of the Witch's Road. He does some research on the Witch's Road and realizes this could be the thing to give him what's missing, and makes his way to Agatha's house in Westview. After Billy angstily looks at Wanda's old house, he checks his spellbook for a release spell, which says he's going to need an important personal item to complete it. He texts Eddie mushy messages before taking the plunge and sneaking into Agatha's place. He finds her brooch before clumsily knocking over a lamp and climbing out her window. And we see the chase from the pilot from his perspective. It's much slower and less climactic in his reality, which is hysterical. Unlike in Agnes's spell, he's also a total sweetheart, even offering to help Agatha after she falls. The interrogation happens in her living room as she's wearing a Boner Family Reunion shirt and brandishing a garden hose nozzle gun, and is also much less intense than Agnes's version of things. He tells her that she's typecast him as the guilty teen, but he swears that couldn't be further from the truth. He also notably doesn't ever see Rio when she does. Once he begins to do the spell, she brings out the duct tape. Once we get to the scene where she rips it off, we see him tell her his name is William Kaplan before admitting he's Billy Maximoff. Back in the present on the Witch's Road, Agatha crawls herself from the mud with an immense amount of struggle. She throws her jacket off, basically an extremely sad character death, and goes to find Billy, who crushes the sigil block in his hand and takes down his hood. That was quite a debut, she tells him. She calls him out on his lies about not knowing what a sigil was and wanting power. He tells her power isn't what he wants, though she seems unconvinced. When did Agatha figure it out? She suspected it when they first met. Even without his name, he and Wanda have the same tell. Very inconvenient for him. She wasn't sure until the big explosion, though. She tells him it's nice to see him again and calls him Billy, which makes him realize she can hear him again. Every witch with a beating heart can, in fact. He feels bad about what he did to Lilia and Jen, but Agatha assures him that life goes on. She's killed more than she can count, so he shouldn't let it hold him back. He says he's not like her, yet even more Wanda parallels. Agatha tells him not to feel guilty about his talent. He survived like witches have been doing for centuries. Who cares that he broke the rules? That's what kept him alive, and special, and a witch. Billy tells Agatha he doesn't need her anymore. He's not sure he ever did. Right then, his powers cease to work, and she mocks him. How is he going to finish with all that power he can't control? She gets all nasty and scary again, asking what he wants at the end of the road. It's not Wanda. She chose a town of strangers over him. It's not Vision. Who knows where he is? It must be Tommy. He can sense him. He just can't find him. Billy says that if she really wants to finish this together, she needs to know he doesn't trust her. At all. She laughs in his face and tells him they should go find the next trial.